Revealed, the divine origin of the 4,000-year feud in Israel and Palestine. A sacred Bible story. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the word of the Lord came to his servant Abraham, who dwelled in the land of Canaan, a land rich with promise yet fraught with trials. Beneath the vast canopy of stars that twinkled like the divine multitude of nations to come, there lingered an ache in the heart of Sarah, his beloved wife. For years they had wandered, but the promise of an heir remained unfulfilled, and the weight of her barrenness pressed heavily upon her spirit. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber hue across the desert sands, Sarah's desperation grew palpable. "Behold my maid, Hagar," she implored, fear and urgency mingling in her voice. "Perhaps she will bear a child upon my knees, and through her, I may build a family." Abraham's heart trembled at the thought, yet the burning desire for a legacy stirred within him, compelling him to acquiesce. Thus, Hagar, an Egyptian servant, became a part of their household, intertwining their fates in ways unforeseen. As days turned to weeks, the impossible became reality, and Hagar conceived, bringing forth a son named Ishmael. Joy flickered in the hearts of Abraham and Sarah, but as Hagar's pride swelled with her newfound status, jealousy ignited a fierce battle between the two women. The tension that simmered in their household spiraled into discord, escalating to a fever pitch as Hagar began to taunt Sarah. Confident in her position. In a storm of anguish, Sarah cried out to Abraham, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son." Her voice trembled with the agony of her heart, and Abraham found himself torn. Ishmael, despite being the fruit of desperation, was his flesh and blood. Yet, in that moment of conflict, the voice of God pierced through the fog of human strife. "Do as Sarah says," it commanded, coaxing Abraham into obedience. With heavy sorrow, Abraham prepared for a heartbreaking farewell. The dawn broke with muted colors as he filled a skin with water and laid it upon Hagar's shoulder. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she cradled baby Ishmael against her heart and stepped into the wilderness, the vast emptiness mirroring her despair. In her darkest hour, with provisions dwindling and hope fading, Hagar fell to her knees in lamentation, her cries echoing into the silence. But the God who listens did not forsake her. "What troubles you, Hagar?" came a voice of celestial comfort, an angel of the Lord revealing divine compassion. He proclaimed God's promise, that her son would father a great nation. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Hagar pondered her son's future, mingled emotions surged within her: joy at God's promise and sorrow at her separation from Abraham and Sarah. The sun scorched the wilderness, yet, amidst her plight, divine assurance swelled within her spirit, a testament to God's unwavering presence. In her moment of despair, he opened her eyes to a well of water, a sweet relief in the barren land. In the unfolding of this sacred narrative, the destinies of Isaac and Ishmael hung delicately in the balance. Would the threads of their paths ever weave together again, or would they remain enveloped in the shadow of divine purpose and human conflict? The promise loomed large, not merely for individuals but for the generations to come, stirring in the hearts of the faithful who sought understanding in the beautiful chaos of God's plan. And it came to pass that Hagar and her son Ishmael wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba, their hearts heavy with longing for the comforts of home and the presence of their father. The sun bore down mercilessly, and the cries of the child pierced the stillness around them. As the last drops of water slipped through Hagar's fingers, despair clouded her mind, and she resolved to distance herself from Ishmael, lest she witness his slow decline. "Let me not see the death of the child," she cried, as she placed him under one of the scraggly bushes that dotted the barren land. She turned away, unable to bear the thought of his suffering, and sat down a distance off, lifting her voice to the heavens in anguished supplication. Then the Lord spoke once more, for he had not forgotten them. An angel of God called to Hagar from heaven, saying, "What ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the boy, and hold him fast, for I will make him a great nation. And in that moment, the scales of despair fell from her eyes, and she beheld a well of water that the Lord had provided for them. Hastily she filled her skin and gave Ishmael to drink, and as he was strengthened by the sweet sustenance, the promise of the Lord took root in her heart. She began to see the unfolding tapestry of God's plan, woven with disparate threads of her own life and the lives of countless generations yet to come. So the days passed in the wilderness, and Ishmael grew, becoming a skilled archer, living in the desert, and thriving in the land of Paran, while his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. In their hearts, the bond between mother and son remained unbroken, a union fortified by the very promise of God. Meanwhile, back in Canaan, Abraham grew old, but the promise of Isaac flourished in Sarah's womb, and they delighted in the joy of his birth. The laughter of Isaac echoed in their household as he grew strong and favored by his father. Yet, even amidst their blessings, the specter of conflict lingered, for Sarah, realizing Ishmael's popularity with Abraham, became troubled in her spirit. Cast out the bondwoman and her son, Sarah insisted once more, for the child of the bondwoman would not inherit alongside her own. Abraham, distressed by her words, turned to the Lord in prayer seeking direction. And the Lord God answered him gently, saying, Do not be troubled for the lad and your bondwoman. Hearken unto Sarah, for in Isaac shall your seed be called. Abraham arose early the next morning, armed with the wisdom of the Lord. He took bread and a skin of water, giving them to Hagar as she prepared for another journey into the unknown. The Lord has a purpose, he whispered, unable to absolve his heart of the sorrow the commands imparted. As Hagar and Ishmael embarked into the wilderness anew, their futures diverged on paths directed by divine decree. Behold, a new chapter dawned in the saga that would echo through ages, as the seed of Isaac and Ishmael commenced their destinies. Little did they know of the unfolding saga that awaited them, a saga that would lead to nations rising and falling, conflict and covenant, all under the watchful eye of the Almighty, whose plans remain unthwarted and arcane. And as Hagar held Ishmael close, the mystery of God's sovereign will remain. Would their paths one day cross again? Would the echoes of shared blood offer a union, or would divisions deepen into the annals of history? God's hand moved, working his purpose in silence, for the unfolding of his promise was still to be revealed. And it came to pass that in the land of Canaan, the years progressed, and the household of Abraham was a bloom of joy with Isaac at its center. The child, beloved and cherished, grew in wisdom and stature before the Lord, mirroring the promise that had first been whispered to Abraham. Yet, even as the bonds of joy tightened amongst the chosen lineage, the shadows of the past lingered on, waiting for the appointed time. In the wilderness, Hagar and Ishmael thrived amid the harshness of the land, forging a life of resilience. Ishmael, fiery and capable, took to the desert as a hawk to the sky, every arrow he loosed echoing the covenant forged with his mother and carried in his very veins. Hagar looked on with a heartful pride, yet also a yearning for the promise made to Abraham, and for the familial embrace they had been cast out from. One day, as the sun dipped low, casting golden rays over the horizon, Ishmael, with his keen eyes, spotted riders approaching. Mother, behold! He exclaimed, his voice a blend of exhilaration and concern. Hagar's heart raced, for they were strangers, yet wielding weapons that glinted ominously in the setting sun. As the riders drew near, a tall man among them, adorned with rich fabrics, stepped forth and spoke with authority. We seek the son of Abraham, that we may know of the famine that has spread its shadow over the land of our forefather. Hagar's heart fluttered. Could this tribe be a remnant connected to her own? Tell me, stranger, Hagar implored, what news do you bear of my kin in Canaan? The man spoke with a princely tone, his voice resonating in the stillness of the evening. We are the descendants of Lot, who traveled eastward to dwell in the cities of the plain. We have come, for hearing of the mirth in Abraham's house, we seek aid in our time of need. Ishmael stood tall beside his mother, gripping his bow, protective yet curious. The mention of his father's household stirred a myriad of emotions within him. The promise of the past began to shape the uncertainty of his present. In that moment, Hagar felt the weight of two worlds, one of promise and safety, another of survival and strength. And within her, a decision brewed. "Stay with us tonight, and we will share what we have," Hagar offered, her heart tumultuous yet steadfast. As the men settled around a small fire, stories were exchanged, weaving together the threads of their families. The man spoke of the trials that had come upon the land of Canaan, the drought and the uncertainty that loomed like a storm over all. As night deepened, the weight of their shared heritage tangled their destinies. Meanwhile, in Canaan, Abraham sought fervently the counsel of the Lord. "O Lord, how shall the legacy of my house unfold?" he prayed. The stars shone vividly overhead as God whispered in the stillness of the night, "I have marked the paths of both Isaac and Ishmael, and their fates are entwined in ways yet unseen. Nations shall arise from both, yet strife will follow. Rejoice, for my covenant shall endure through them." The conflicting feelings in the hearts of both Hagar and Abraham reflected the complexity of God's plan. Would the past be a source of reunion, or would it breed conflict anew? The night wore on, and with it came the anticipation of morning's light, promising new directions. As Hagar gazed into the embers of their fire, she realized that all their lives were destined for a purpose greater than they could fathom, a divine weaving that would span generations to come. In the twilight before dawn, the question loomed: would they choose communion in the face of God's mysterious design, or would the chasm of history deepen? The answers lay ahead, still shrouded in the guiding hand of the Almighty, whose sovereign plan was unfolding in the whispers of destiny, a destiny of both promise and struggle. And it came to pass that in the early light of dawn, Hagar rose to see the sun breaking upon the horizon, infusing the desert with golden warmth. The fire had dwindled to glowing embers, but a flicker of hope ignited within her heart. She felt the weight of her choices pressing upon her soul as she approached Ishmael, who was already awake, surveying the encampment with an air of determination. "Mother," Ishmael spoke, breaking the silence. "Do you believe we shall ever return to my father's house?" His voice held a mixture of longing and resolve, reflecting the tumult of emotions that swirled in Hagar's heart. "I know not what the Lord has written upon our path," she replied, her voice steady yet filled with unspoken fears. "But remember the words spoken to me, that your seed shall be multiplied exceedingly, that you shall be a great nation." As Hagar prepared a meal from what little they had, the men from the tribe of Lot stirred from their slumber, their voices rising like the morning mist. The leader, still adorned in his rich fabric, approached Hagar once more. "Your hospitality is noted and treasured, woman of the wilderness. But I sense a need beyond mere sustenance. Can we truly speak of our shared heritage?" Hagar nodded, for she understood the depths of longing that bound them, a yearning for kinship lost and fate redefined. "Let us share our hearts, for the blood that flows in my son runs strong through our ancestors." As they sat around the remains of the fire, tales intertwined. The men spoke of their struggles, cities decimated by sin, and their forefather Lot's escape from the destruction that had swallowed Sodom and Gomorrah. Each story was laced with sorrow and unwavering faith, echoing the covenant God had made to Abraham and his descendants. Meanwhile, in Canaan, the sun rose like a beacon over Abraham's tent. Reflecting on the covenant God had forged with him, Abraham sought again the voice of the Almighty in the quiet of the dawn. "Great God of heaven, lead me to act according to your will, that my lineage may flourish in accordance with your promises." And then the Lord spoke to him, "Abraham, the paths of Isaac and Ishmael are near. Though they walk different roads, each is precious in my sight." This revelation washed over Abraham like a cool stream, stirring in him a resolve to seek peace for his family, even amidst the strife that had often marred their existence. That I in the wilderness, as the sun climbed higher, Ishmael probed deeper into the identity of his father's household. What manner of man is my father, and what of Isaac? Does he feel the winds that swirl between our lands? The questions danced around the fire, each word drawing a picture of unreconciled blood. Hagar hesitated, her heart anguished by the reality of what had transpired. "He is favored by our God, beloved of the promise. Yet, know this, my son, conflict is the shadow that lingers near our name." As the day unfolded, the conversations grew richer, yet anxiety spiraled in Hagar's heart. She saw in Ishmael the reflection of both Abraham and her own spirit, torn yet resilient, emboldened by the promise of generations that stretched forwards and backwards through time. By twilight, the men of Lot prepared to depart. Hagar felt a tempest brewing within her as she gathered her courage. May I, too, send word to my kin? Shall we not seek to mend the seams of our family? The leader of the tribe nodded solemnly. It is your son's legacy that binds us. Reach out, and perhaps a way forward shall emerge from the ashes of discord. Yet, Hagar's heart trembled. The path toward reconciliation was fraught with uncertainty. What if the legacy of strife swallows our intentions? What if we stand again at the precipice of destruction? The leader clasped her shoulder, his grip firm. Fear not, for remember, the God of your forefather has a purpose laid before you. Seek it with all your heart. As shadows lengthened and the sun dipped below the horizon, Hagar glanced towards the distant mountains where Canaan lay, filled with both hope and trepidation. In the burgeoning darkness, a new mystery arose. Would the threads of their fates intertwine through love, or would the destinies written take them further apart? The winds whispered of what was to come, a divine plan unfolding, a promise lingering, yet coming closer into view. And it came to pass that Hagar, stirred by the weight of her contemplation, sat under the shade of a solitary tree, the desert wind whispering tales of ancient times. The men of Lot had departed, their figures fading into the horizon, leaving her with the tender light of dusk painting hopes and fears upon the canvas of her heart. Mighty God, Hagar prayed softly, her voice a mere tremor upon the desert air, if you have indeed set a path before us, reveal to me the next step that I must take for Ishmael and me. As she spoke, beads of tension gathered upon her brow, for she felt the silence of heaven pressing against her spirit, heavy yet expectant. In that moment, Ishmael approached her, his eyes alight with youthful fervor. Mother, he exclaimed, what will we do now? Shall we venture toward the land of Canaan? Will we see my father's face again? His spirit, kindled by curiosity and a deep, innate yearning, beckoned forth Hagar's strength. God has established our course, she replied, holding his gaze, but the direction lies obscured to my eyes. Yet, trust in the promise, my son, for he who sees the end from the beginning knows what is needed to bring forth the nations. As night draped the wilderness in velvet shadows, she recalled the promise of the Lord spoken to her in that fateful moment by the spring. The Lord had said, I will greatly multiply your seed, that they shall not be numbered for multitude. These words became her anchor against the rising tide of uncertainty, yet within her, the question stirred continually, what does that multiplication truly mean? Will it lead to peace or conflict? Suddenly, the air trembled, as though the weight of ages hung heavy in the balance. The night flickered with stars, each one a reminder of God's covenant with Abraham. As she pondered their shimmering brilliance, a solemn thought gripped her heart. Were these stars a reflection of the children to come? On the morrow, Hagar decided to journey toward Canaan, drawn by a compulsion deeper than her fears. She sought the counsel of the men of Lot, and as she did, an elder among them spoke, Hagar, woman of the desert, your son is destined for greatness, but the road to restoration is fraught with peril and sacrifice. Be wary of the divisions that lie between your kin and Isaac. With a heart both heavy and resolute, Hagar gathered provisions and prepared in silence, knowing that the path chosen would intertwine their fates with those of their brethren. The memory of Abraham filled her thoughts, her heart bore witness to his love for both her and Isaac, as divinely decreed that in Canaan. Abraham felt a stirring of the spirit, a vision rising before him in the light of early dawn. He beheld Hagar and Ishmael journeying toward him, their shadows long and intertwined, and a sense of urgency enveloped him. Will the promise of my God manifest through these two? He pondered, longing for reconciliation but wrestling with the ancient bitterness that plagued his household. And so, as the sun broke over the hills of Canaan, illuminating the promise of the Lord, there hung a question in the air: could forgiveness pave the way for unity in a land scarred by division? Would the heart of God lead them home, or would they again dance on the edge of despair? For in the fabric of creation, God's narrative wove seamlessly toward a climax, unifying destinies across ages with the silent call of his purpose lingering just beyond sight, whispering of grace yet to be revealed. As Hagar and Ishmael followed the trail leading toward Canaan, the sun climbed higher, casting its warm light upon the rugged path ahead. Each footstep echoed the weight of history, a journey not just of distance, but of destiny. Hagar's heart raced with a mixture of hope and trepidation, for she sensed an unseen hand guiding their course. "Mother," Ishmael inquired, breaking the silence, "why do I feel we are caught between worlds? Is it not our birthright to find peace?" His voice, full of youthful wisdom, stirred within Hagar a longing for clarity. With reflective tenderness, she replied, "My son, every journey bears the scars of its path. Your birth is a testament to God's promise, yet it is also bound to the legacy of two families wrestling for blessing. Remember the words of the Lord, 'He who touches you touches the apple of his eye,' Zechariah 2 verse 8. We are cherished by the Almighty, and though trials may come, His plans shall not falter." Their passage intertwined with the land of Canaan, an expanse rich with promise yet marred by strife. As they approached the hills where Abraham tented, the air thickened with anticipation. Suddenly, a shadow fell across their path. It was Abraham himself, his visage marked by the passage of time and the weight of his covenant. "Hagar!" he called out, a mixture of joy and sorrow wrinkling his brow. "My heart has longed for this moment, yet uncertainty hangs like a cloud." He stepped forward, extending his arms, torn between the love for his son Isaac and the bond forged with Hagar and Ishmael. "Father," Ishmael stepped forward, emboldened by the spirit of hope that had been growing within him. "I come not as a shadow of your past, but as a bearer of the promise. The Lord has spoken to Mother, and we seek our place in this divine narrative." Abraham looked upon them, his heart heavy with conviction. "You are indeed a great nation, the Lord has spoken of your destiny. Yet great nations are birthed in struggle. Know this, within the promise lies the necessity of trials and the formation of character." Hagar watched the interplay of emotions, the longing, the love, and yet the lines drawn in the sand. "Let not past grievances cloud the future," she entreated. "For we are all children of the promise." They sat together upon the parched ground, the tensions within them stretched across the seams of their shared lineage. Words were exchanged, stories recounted, and the air became thick with unspoken histories and silent wounds that traversed generations. As the shadows lengthened, Hagar felt the warmth of compassion blossom within her. "Abraham, let us not deny the bond forged through God's will. Ishmael, too, carries within him the hopes of our lineage," she said softly, a quiet resolve in her voice, yet unbeknownst to them, the heavens stirred, for God's purpose extended beyond their sight, an intricate weave of blessings and trials that would overshadow and encompass many nations. In the distance, the voice of an angel might be heard declaring the unfolding of God's sovereign plan. "Remember," a silence spoke through the air, "for I have made a covenant with your forefather. The time draws near when the fragments of your destinies will coincide in the tapestry I am weaving. You shall learn unity in diversity, and from your lineage, a promise still pregnant with redemption shall arise." And thus, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a sacred tension hung in the air, a divine promise waiting to be fulfilled, an echo of hope that reached beyond present divisions, leading them toward a future not solely theirs, but part of a grand narrative designed by God Himself. What awaited them, in the fabric of time, was hidden but vibrant with purpose. As twilight descended, the stars began to twinkle, illuminating the rugged terrain of Canaan. Hagar and Ishmael sat encircled by the remnants of yesterday's battles and today's hopes. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of ancient promises. "Abraham," Hagar began hesitantly, her voice trembling with the weight of their shared past, "your words speak of trials yet also of destiny. I ask not just for sustenance but for clarity. What is our place in this unfolding story?" Abraham's eyes, though clouded with wind-blown dust of the years, sparkled with the fire of a father's love. "Hagar," he replied, "the Lord has spoken to me of a great nation that shall arise from you and your son. His promises are as enduring as the night sky filled with stars, though understanding may not come easily. Then we shall press on, even if the path is shrouded in shadows," Ishmael affirmed, his youthful spirit igniting the embers of hope. "I sense a calling upon us, a purpose woven thread by thread as our ancestors have walked before us. Abraham's heart swelled with both pride and sorrow. I fear not for the greatness of your destiny, my son, but for the road that leads to it. Many will come to test you. Do not lose heart, nor abandon the faith that has been passed down through generations. As night settled in, they huddled close, each word laced with the gravity of their journey. Hagar offered prayers into the darkness, invoking the name of the Lord who seeth and searcheth the depths of hearts. O God of Abraham, hear my cry, we seek not merely survival but your divine guidance. Not far away, the faint sound of footsteps could be heard. A band of travelers paused, drawn by the flicker of their campfire. Among them was a seeker named Kedar, a man familiar with the whispers of wandering hearts. With respect, he approached the family, gazing upon them as if they bore the light of a distant star. Peace be upon you, family of promise, he greeted. I have heard tales of you, of the bonds that tie your destinies together. There is strength in your gathering, you bear the weight of divine purpose. Welcome, brother traveler, Hagar responded, sensing the touch of divine providence in his presence. We seek what the Lord has in store for our lineage. What do you see in our gathering? Kedar knelt near their fire. I have walked the lands of both promise and shadow. Many tribes are rising, their eyes set upon power and influence. Yet, it is love and unity that God seeks to reveal through conflict. In the discord of your line may rest a profound redemption. Abraham listened intently, understanding the prophecy of nations intertwined. Will you share with us what you have learned? He asked. Every tale spins from the same threads, Kedar explained. The lineage of Isaac and Ishmael has been a tempest in the fabric of time, often portrayed as rivals when they are, in fact, pivotal pieces of the same grand design. In the struggles of your descendants will emerge the call for peace. As they listened, a holy stillness enveloped them, a moment suspended between heaven and earth. Hagar's heart swelled with realization that their narrative was more significant than just their individual stories. They were part of an eternal tapestry, and then, in the stillness, a truth settled upon Hagar's heart like morning dew. But what remains hidden from us is the ultimate purpose of these intertwining legacies, the covenant that binds us all. The time will come when understanding breaks forth like dawn, unveiling the fullness of God's redemptive plan. Thus, with their hearts ignited by hope and their spirits entwined in promise, they journeyed onward from that place of conversation, unaware that their paths were to echo through ages, a reminder that beyond the struggle, the seeds of unity and divine callings lay waiting to blossom. What would this revelation mean in the unfolding of a story that only the divine author could fully comprehend? As dawn approached, the horizon painted itself in hues of golden light, heralding a new day. Hagar and Ishmael stirred from their slumber, the weight of the night's revelation still fresh upon their hearts. The fire had dimmed, but embers glowed faintly, echoing the flicker of hope that now burned in their souls. Mother, Ishmael called, his youthful eyes searching the expanse around them, what shall we do now? The world speaks of a land filled with promise, and yet our journey feels uncertain. Hagar, filled with resolve, looked into her son's face. Ishmael, we will journey to the place where God leads us. We shall not waver. The Lord has declared that you are to become a great nation, and his word is true, as the sun that rises every day. With that, they packed their humble belongings, each item a token of their shared heritage. Hagar took a moment to gaze back, her heart straddling between longing and hope. Would they find what was foretold? Would the struggle spoke of by Kedar yield a path toward peace? After some time, they wandered through the rugged hills, their faces etched with determination. Hagar's mind was flooded with memories of the covenant spoken to Abraham. To your offspring, I will give this land, the Lord had promised. It seemed a distant echo over the ages, yet she clung to it fiercely. As they walked, they entered a fertile valley, overflowing with water and lush vegetation. Ishmael knelt, cupping his hands together, drinking deeply. Look, mother, what a good land! He exclaimed, laughter spilling from his lips. Yes, my son, Hagar encouraged, her heart swelled with gratitude. Perhaps the Lord has led us to a portion of our inheritance. At that very moment, a shadow fell upon them. A group of travelers approached, their faces lined with weariness and curiosity. The leader, bearing regal attire, stepped forward and addressed them. "Who are you that the dawn finds you here in this blessed valley?" "Greetings," Hagar replied, her voice steady despite the uncertainty that stirred within. "I am Hagar, and this is my son Ishmael. We seek what the Lord has promised us." The leader's brows furrowed in contemplation. Many seek the land and the blessings of it. Yet, not all are ready for the challenges that come with such favor. Are you prepared to face the trials that lay ahead? Ishmael's courage started to falter. "What sort of trials?" he asked, a hint of fear threading through his voice. "The trials of distrust and division," the leader replied, his tone foreboding. "For from your lineage shall emerge not only greatness but also conflict among your people and others. The world is not prepared for what you bring." Hagar felt a weight settle upon her heart. "The call for peace must come from our willingness to embrace our purpose," she asserted, emboldened by the truth. "God does not only ordain greatness but also the resolution of strife. Our journey is for more than ourselves, it is for those who will one day call upon the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael." The leader nodded, a glimmer of respect illuminating his features. "May your journey reveal the truth you seek." As they moved forward, Hagar and Ishmael continued to talk of God's promises, weaving their hopes with each step. However, the words of the leader lingered, echoing deep within Hagar's spirit. What trials awaited them? How would their legacy intertwine with the fate of nations? With the gentle breeze carrying the scent of sage and promise, they set their course toward an uncertain future, unaware that every challenge and triumph would shape not only their lives but the history of those yet to come. Little did they know beyond the struggles that loomed ahead lay the unforeseen scope of God's redemptive purpose, waiting to break forth like the morning sun unveiling the day. What divine mysteries were to be revealed, and how would faith contend amidst looming shadows? Thus began the saga that would echo through generations. As Hagar and Ishmael continued their journey through the verdant valley, their hearts clung to the promises of God, and yet a heaviness loomed over them, as if the very air was heavy with foreknowledge of the trials ahead. Soon, they came across a spring bubbling forth with crystal-clear water. Ishmael approached it eagerly, his thirst urging him forward. "Mother, look! The Lord has provided for us in our need," he exclaimed, cupping his hands to drink. Hagar watched as he drank, her heart buoyed by the simple joy of her son. Yet, she remembered the leader's words, dark and foreboding. "Indeed, my son," she said softly, "but remember, with provision may come the tests of our faith." As they rested beside the spring, Hagar offered a prayer, her spirit crying out to the God who saw her in her affliction. "O Lord, you who promised that my child would be a great nation, let not our lives be for naught. We seek your guidance and protection along this path." The rustle of leaves stirred in response, an echo of the divine confirming her faith. Hagar sensed God's presence surrounding her, and just then, a caravan of merchants appeared over the horizon. Their camels laden with spices, silks, and treasures sparkled like jewels in the sun. "Behold, these men are from afar," Ishmael called, excitement breaking his previous doubts. The merchants drew closer, their faces bearing expressions of weariness yet intrigue. Hagar stood to greet them. "Peace be upon you. We have journeyed far in search of what the Lord has promised." One among the merchants, his robes dyed rich hues of blue, spoke with a voice both smooth and sharp. "And what is this promise, O woman of the wilderness?" "Surely, the winds speak of many a fortune and much strife." "The promise of God," she replied, earnestness igniting her words. "That my son Ishmael shall become a great nation and that our paths shall intertwine with the fates of many." The merchant's brow furrowed. "Your words are bold, yet history tells us that nations born of strife often bear the brunt of conflict. Are you prepared to bear the weight of such words?" Hagar stood tall, emboldened by her calling. "We are ready to walk where the Lord leads us. For he is not only the God of Abraham but also of us of every promise made to those who call upon his name. He will guide our steps and quell division, should we trust in him? A hushed reverence fell over the merchants, for they sensed the weight of her faith. One man, older and wiser than the rest, stepped forward and placed a hand upon Ishmael's shoulder. Let your heart be steadfast, young one. The trials will come, but your mother speaks truth for those who listen closely. Trust in the Lord, for his paths are often hidden but never without purpose. As the merchants offered supplies in exchange for blessings, Hagar and Ishmael stood united, knowing they were part of a larger narrative. Hope filled their hearts yet mingled with the knowledge of struggles to come. We shall go forth, then, Hagar declared, an unwavering spirit rising within her. For we do not journey alone, the Almighty goes before us, as he always has. The merchants, turning to continue their journey, left behind a gift of food and water. As Hagar and Ishmael feasted beside the spring, they could feel destiny unfolding before them, the echoes of the past melding into the silhouettes of an uncertain future, but what they did not know amidst the gifts and the blessings of the moment was the greater design woven into their lives, where each step would ripple through time, causing nations to rise and fall. Even now, the plans of the Creator were weaving a tapestry of fulfillment that would bode great sorrows and immeasurable grace. Thus, in the midst of abundance, the question loomed in the heart of Hagar: what profound trials lay ahead, and how would her lineage reshape the world? There awaited the turning of ages, and the divine mysteries of a redemptive purpose stretched towards the horizon like the dawning sun illuminating a path unseen. And it came to pass that the time drew near for the fulfillment of the promises entwined within the lives of Hagar and Ishmael, and the legacy of Abraham reached its sacred climax. The years had rolled onward, as a river flows through parched lands, and the bond of mother and son deepened beneath the weight of God's covenant. As the sun rose over the rugged hills of Canaan, light cascading like golden grace upon the earth, Hagar awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. It was said that the Lord's eye was upon her, and her heart swelled with the expectation of divine reunion. Ishmael, now a mighty young man, stood at her side, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. "Mother," Ishmael spoke, his voice steady and filled with assurance. "The winds whisper of our coming. Shall we meet him today?" Hagar nodded, her heart entwined with both hope and trepidation. "We shall, for our steps are ordered by the Lord, the promise chafes against the bonds of past misconceptions. Let us seek reconciliation, and trust that God's hand shall weave our fates into harmony." And so, they journeyed onward toward Abraham's tent, a tapestry of fears and blessings interwoven within their lineage. As they approached, the horizon muted with a sense of impending revelation, the air thickened with anticipation, and Hagar prayed fervently. "O God of Abraham, let not our hearts tremble in the face of separation, may love break forth where strife has cast shadows." When they reached the encampment, Abraham emerged, his visage marked by wisdom and age, yet his eyes shone with an eternal light, kindled by years of faithful adherence to the voice of God. "Hagar," he exclaimed, a mixture of joy and sorrow distilling in his tone. "You have returned. I have longed for such a day." "Father," Ishmael stepped forward, his spirit bold yet reverent. "We come not just as remnants of wounds and conflict, but as bearers of promises. The Lord has drawn us here to unite the threads of our destinies once more." Tears filled Abraham's eyes as he absorbed the gravity of their plea. "Indeed, you are a son of promise, beloved by the Almighty. The echoes of our history need not dictate our future. Let unity prevail over division, and together we honor the covenant made." Together, they kneeled upon the soil, the very earth that had soaked in their separate griefs, and thus prayed as one. "O Lord," Hagar breathed, her heart bound by divine love, "heal our rifts, restore our family, and breathe life upon the seeds of peace." As the prayers rose like sweet incense before heaven, a stillness enveloped them, accompanying the heavy presence of the Almighty. The sun shone brighter still, illuminating the truths that lay hidden in shadows. And in that moment of stillness, God whispered clarity into their hearts: "In coming together, you reflect the wonder of my design. Nations shall arise from you both, woven into the fabric of my sovereign will." With renewed spirit, they rose, no longer merely individuals marked by the weight of their past but rather participants in a holy narrative releasing the seeds of hope. In that shared acknowledgement, the path forward became illuminated, and reconciliation carried through the strands of their existence. Days turned into weeks, and as Hagar and Abraham thrived in the bond they forged anew, Ishmael flourished under the canopy of promise. Together, they journeyed, not only in the realms of flesh and blood but in the realm of the spirit, and the night sky twinkled overhead like a myriad of blessings yet to unfold. As they gathered for meals, laughter reverberated in the air, echoing harmony throughout the tents, each moment weaving a legacy of unity. Nations were shaped in their midst, each bearing witness to God's faithfulness through trials and triumphs alike. In time, the descendants of Ishmael wandered the vast deserts fierce and resilient, while Isaac's lineage flourished in the fertile valleys of Canaan. Struggles arose, yet with each challenge, the legacy of peace prevailed, one-eyed toward seeking what was good, knitting together the hearts of two peoples destined to share the world. And thus, God's promise persevered through shadows and trials, blossoming into the dawn of understanding. Generations of shared heartache transmuted into opportunities for unity. As time flowed on, it echoed a clear refrain of hope across the arid landscapes that the lineage born from strife could bear the fruits of reconciliation, ever entwined in the tapestry of God's unwavering love. The days of struggle transformed the hearts that once bore animosity now sang hymns of blessing, transcending the battles of your redeemed by their Creator's masterful hand. And now, beloved friends, the call to action echoes through the ages. Experience the transformative power of these sacred narratives by dwelling in their truths. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and witness how His promises reach across time. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, creating ripples of faith in every heart that seeks Him. Comment your spiritual reflections. How does this biblical story ignite your faith and understanding of unity? Do not wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Let your life be a beacon of hope, inspiring others to join in the glorious purpose crafted before the foundation of the world.